Good morning, students. In our last class, we have discussed some of the infectious diseases like typhoid, pneumonia, common cold, malaria, amoebiasis, ascariasis. What is the pathogen that causes a typhoid fever? Salmonella typhi. What is the pathogen that results with pneumonia? Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenzae. The pathogen that results with common cold is rhinovirus. What is the pathogen that causes malarial fever? Plasmodium vivax. What is the pathogen that causes amoebic dysentery? Entamoeba histolytica. The pathogen that causes a disease, ascariasis, that is Ascaris lumbricoides, commonly called as roundworm. Today in this session, let us continue with a few more infectious diseases. The next infectious diseases is elephantiasis. It is also called as filariasis. What is the pathogen that causes this elephantiasis? That is Wuchereria bancrofti, also Wuchereria malai. Which are the organs mainly affected? The lymphatic vessels of lower limbs and genital organs. How it is transmitted? By biting of female infected Culex mosquito. When this infected Culex mosquito bites a person, the lymphatic vessels will be affected. That results with swelling of lower limbs and genital organs. What are the other symptoms? There will be a chronic inflammation of organs which live for many years, and abnormal swelling in the lower limbs and the genital organs will be swollen, fever, and there will be a pain in and around the testicles. What is the treatment given for this elephantiasis? It is treated with combination of steroids. The steroids acts like a painkiller and it is also treated with anti-inflammatory drug. Along with steroids, the anti-inflammatory drug which is given at a very less dose. This is the image that depicts about elephantiasis disease. Here you can see the person, the lower limb, it has been swollen and the genital organ is also swollen. It just looks like an elephant leg and hence it is also called as elephantiasis, where the lower limbs as well as the genital organs will be swelled. The next disease is about ringworm disease. The pathogen that causes the ringworm disease, the pathogen is nothing but fungi. The pathogen is Microsporum, Trichophyton and Epidermophyton. These are the pathogen that causes a disease, ringworm disease. They are mostly fungi. The pathogen is Microsporum, Trichophyton and Epidermophyton. Which are the organs mainly affected? The organs which are mainly affected is skin, nails and hairs on the head and also folds of skin. How this ringworm disease is transmitted? It is transmitted through contaminated soil or it is also transmitted through contaminated objects by using the towel, cloths or even sharing the comb from an infected individual. The ringworm disease is transmitted to an healthy individual. I will repeat, through contaminated soil or by using the contaminated objects, by sharing of towels, cloths or even using the comb from an infected individual, this ringworm disease is transmitted to a healthy person. What are the symptoms? Appearance of dry scaly lesions in nails, skin and scalp of head. This lesion is accompanied with intense itching. When there is more amount of lesions, that results with intense itching. And this moisture and heat help this fungi to grow. Moisture and heat are the places where this fungi grow. And what is the treatment given for this ringworm disease? It is treated with anti-fungal medication. By applying creams, we can reduce these ringworm diseases. Now let us see the images of ringworm disease. Here this is the dry scaly lesions that is seen on skin, and here on the scalp you can see the appearance of lesions, and here in the fingers we can see the lesions. These lesions will be accompanied with intense itching. The person always feels very much itching. This is the Microsporum the microscopic view, you can have a look, and this is the dry scaly lesions that is seen on fingers of legs. Okay, these are some of the common infectious diseases that is seen in man. Now, what are the measures taken to prevent or how to control these common infectious diseases? Let us see that. Prevention and control of infectious diseases in man. Maintenance of personal and public hygiene. Personal hygiene means we should take care about our body. That means we have to take regular bath, brushing the teeth, and we have to eat nutritious food. The vegetables, fruits, whatever we eat, that should be properly washed. Public hygiene, we should create awareness among the public, disposing the excretory waste in the open field likewise. The personal hygiene includes consumption of clean drinking water. We should always drink clean, pure, potable water, and we should eat proper nutritious food like fruits, vegetables, and keeping the body clean. That means regular bathing should be taken. Public hygiene includes proper disposal of waste. The proper disposal of waste should be done in a open field. And excreta, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs. The water reservoirs should be free from infection. It should be cleaned regularly. Pools and cesspools, as well as swimming pool, it should not be infected with any microbes. That should be also regularly cleaned in order to prevent from infectious diseases. Standard practice of hygiene in public catering. We have to create awareness among the public in maintaining hygiene. We have to keep our surrounding clean, and we should take care about some infectious diseases. That means we should be aware about some infectious diseases. In case of airborne diseases, close contact with infected persons or their belongings should be avoided. If a person is having cold or is having fever, he often sneezes, the healthy person should be away from that infected person so that he will be free from these infectious diseases. In case of airborne diseases, close contact with infected person or their belongings should be avoided. Next, for vector-borne diseases, we already know what is a vector. It is a transmitting agent where the parasite is introduced into the host body. That is nothing but vector. How to control these vector-borne diseases? To control or eliminating the vectors and their breeding season. How to control or how to eliminate their breeding season? Let us see. Avoid the stagnation of water in and around the residential areas. We should avoid the stagnation of water in and around the residential areas. That helps for reducing the growth of mosquito larvae. Regular cleaning of household coolers. We have AC as well as household coolers that should be regularly cleaned in order to avoid this growth of vectors. Use of mosquito nets. Using mosquito nets in our rooms in order to avoid the growth of mosquito. Introducing fishes like gambusia in the pond that mainly feeds on mosquito larvae. In order to decrease the amount of mosquito larvae, we can introduce the fish, that is gambusia, in ponds and lakes so that these fish feeds on this mosquito larvae. And spraying of insecticides in ditches, drainage areas and swamps by using these chemicals, that is insecticides, that is sprayed in ditches, drainages and swamps. Window and door must be fitted with wire mesh in order to prevent the entry of mosquitoes. The doors and windows that are fitted with wire mesh. All these precautions are very important in order to avoid the vector-borne diseases like dengue, chikungunya, malaria, etc. When we take certain precautions, we can reduce or we can avoid such vector-borne diseases. Okay, moving on to the next concept, that is immunity. Every day our body will be inhaling or our body will be entertaining certain microbial agents. Some of the microbial agents that results with diseases, but some of the microbial agents that are withstand or that are fought by some antibodies that is present in our body. That means some mechanism that has the capacity to fight against the microbial agents, that is called as immune system. I will give an example. Suppose there is one big house where it has got some beautiful as well as expensive things, and there is one watchman who is going to look after those valuable things, and there will be one thief coming to steal the expensive things which is present in the house. Here the house is considered as a body, and the watchman is nothing but the immune system, and the thief is nothing but the antigen or the microbes that is entering into our body. So how to define immunity? It is the overall ability of the host to fight the disease causing organism by immune system is called immunity. I'll repeat, it is the overall ability of the host to fight the disease causing organism by immune system is called immunity. There are two types of immunity. First one is innate immunity and second one is acquired immunity. This innate immunity is nothing but, as the name says, innate means it is inborn immunity. It is present at the time of birth. It is non-specific type of defense, whereas acquired immunity, the immunity which is acquired after birth, or we can also say the immunity which is developed during our lifetime, and this acquired immunity is very much pathogen specific. Now let us study one by one. First let us look into innate immunity. Innate immunity, it is the inborn immunity. It is the non-specific type of defense. The innate immunity is also called the first line of defense. This innate immunity consists of various barriers that prevents the growth of or entry of microbes into our body. The innate immunity mainly consists of four barriers, which mainly include physical barrier, physiological barrier, cellular barrier and cytokine barrier. There are four barriers that is mostly present in innate immunity. First one is physical barrier, second one is physiological barrier, third one is cellular barrier, fourth one is cytokine barrier. Let us study one by one. Physical barrier. We know that the skin is the main barrier which prevents the entry of microbes that is entering into our body. It acts like a barrier where the microbes cannot enter easily into our body. And the mucous coating of epithelium, that is the lining of gastrointestinal tract, urinogenital tract, respiratory tract, that helps in trapping the microbes entering into our body. This mucous coating of epithelium, the lining of respiratory, gastrointestinal and urinogenital tract, helps in trapping the microbes that enter into our body. That is about physical barriers. I'll repeat, the skin is the main barrier which prevents the entry of microorganisms. Mucous coating epithelium, lining of respiratory, gastrointestinal and urinogenital tract, that helps in trapping the microbes that enter into our body. Next is about physiological barrier. Acid in stomach, where these microbes cannot survive in acidic medium. So the low pH kills the harmful microbes. Next, saliva in mouth. The saliva is a watery fluid which is present in the oral cavity, where it has got a specific pH and these microbes cannot survive for a longer time, and it has got antibacterial enzyme in order to prevent the entry of microbes. The next one is tears from eyes. For example, if any dust or dirt that enter into our eyes, the lacrimal gland produces tears. Along with the tears, the dust or any dirt that will be washed out from our eyes. It also contains the antibacterial enzyme, so it prevents the entry of microbes into our eyes. So all this helps in preventing the microbial growth, that is acid in stomach, saliva in mouth and tears from eyes, that helps in preventing the microbial growth. This is about physiological barriers. Okay, I already told the innate immunity is also called as first line of defense. Here in the tears we have got antibacterial enzyme, mucus that lining with respect to gastrointestinal tract, urinogenital tract, as well as it traps the dirt as well as microbes. Saliva, it acts like an antibacterial enzyme in preventing the entry of microbes into our body, and skin is the main barrier that prevents the entry of microbes enter into our body. Stomach, it has got acidic medium where these microbes cannot survive for longer time, and it has got a low pH which kills the harmful microbes. Next is about cellular barrier. There are certain type of leukocytes, that is nothing but WBC of our body, like polymorphonuclear leukocytes, it is abbreviated as PMNL, neutrophils and monocytes, and natural killer cells. They are the type of lymphocyte which is present in the blood, as well as macrophages in the tissue. They can phagocytose and destroy the microbes. This phagocytic cell has the capacity to engulf the bacteria and thereby prevent the entry of microbes into our body. They are nothing but the cellular barriers. There are certain type of leukocytes which is present in WBC, like polymorphonuclear leukocytes, neutrophils, and natural killer cell. It is a type of lymphocyte. Macrophages, which is present in tissue, it can phagocytose and destroy the microbes. The last one is the cytokine barriers. The virus infected cells secrete a protein that is called as interferon, which protect the non-infected cells from further viral infection. These cytokine barriers, where the virus infected cells secrete a protein, what we call that interferon, which protect the non-infected cells from further viral infection. This is about cytokine barriers. So innate immunity consists of mainly 4 barriers: physical barriers, physiological barriers, cellular barriers, and cytokine barriers. Next, moving on to the second type of immunity, that is acquired immunity. Acquired immunity, it is very much pathogen specific immunity, the immunity which is acquired after our birth. This immunity is developed in order to encounter with a pathogen. This acquired immunity is characterized by memory. I will give an example. Suppose there is one house, I already told there are some valuable things in the house, and there is one watchman who is going to look after those valuable things, and there will be one thief entering to the house to steal those valuable things, and the thief is very much strong as compared to watchman. So the watchman has the capacity to remember the thief for the first time. Next, what he will do, he will implement his co-workers for about 5 to 6 members. Then this watchman can easily fight against with that thief. The same mechanism happens with respect to this acquired immunity. I already told that this acquired immunity is pathogen specific immunity. This acquired immunity is acquired after our birth. It has got a characteristic of memory. That means this acquired immunity, that our body encounters a pathogen for the first time and produces a response. That response is called as primary response. This primary response has got very low intensity. Subsequently, when our body encounters the same pathogen, elicits highly intensified secondary or amnestic response. Whenever our body encounters the same pathogen for the second time, the pathogen which is stored in the memory, and it can easily fight against such type of pathogen, and our body is free from disease. I will repeat, acquired immunity, it is a pathogen specific immunity. This immunity is developed after the birth when encounter with a pathogen. It is characterized by memory. This means that our body, when it encounters a pathogen for the first time, it produces a response. What do we call that response? Primary response, which is of low intensity. Subsequently, when our body encounters the same pathogen, it elicits a highly intensified secondary response, or this secondary response is also called as amnestic response. Next, and this the pathogen which has been encountered for the first time, it is stored in our memory. Whenever the same pathogen encounters our body, and our body has the capacity to easily fight against certain type of pathogen. For example, if a person has experience with chikungunya, if the chikungunya again if a person is facing, then he will be easily get rid of this disease, that is chikungunya. Acquired immunity is a characteristic of memory. Whenever our body encounters a pathogen for the first time, it produces a response that is called as primary response, which is of low intensity. When our body encounters the same pathogen for the second time, it produces a secondary response which is of high intensity, that is called as amnestic response. The memory of first encounter is stored and it can easily identify the antigen or the pathogen, and it can easily fight against that antigen by producing antibodies. Acquired immunity is carried out with the help of two types of lymphocytes. They are nothing but B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. What are these B lymphocytes? The B lymphocytes are produced in bone marrow of all vertebrates. The B lymphocytes produce antibodies with respect to a specific antigen. And what about these T lymphocytes? The T lymphocytes help the B cells in producing the antibodies. The B lymphocytes produce an army of proteins in response to pathogen into our blood to fight with them. These proteins are called as antibodies. Antibodies are commonly called as, the antibodies are the chemicals which are mainly produced by B lymphocytes to fight against a specific antigen. They are nothing but antibodies. These T cells, they are nothing but T lymphocytes. They themselves does not produce antibodies, but they help the B cells in producing antibodies. Now let us study the structure of antibodies. You can have a look with respect to this structure of antibody molecule. It is a long Y-shaped protein molecule. Each antibody has got a specific antigen binding site where the antibody binds with respect to antigen binding site. It recognizes and neutralizes the pathogen. Pathogen here refers to antigen. Structure of antibody. Each antibody has got a 4 polypeptide chain. The 2 chain which are smaller in size, they are called as light chain. The 2 chain which are longer, they are called as heavy chain. Hence the antibody is represented as generally H2 and L2. Hence the antibody is represented as H2, L2. There are different types of antibodies that are produced in our body, such as IgA, IgM, IgE, IgG. These are the different classes of antibodies which are produced in our body, like IgA, IgM, IgE, IgG. What is this Ig? Ig is nothing but immunoglobulin. Immuno refers to immune system. Globin, that is nothing but globin of proteins. So these are different types of antibodies that is present in our body. Now the next concept is about acquired immune response. The acquired immune response is of 2 types. First one is humoral immune response. It is also called as antibody mediated response, or in other words it is also called antibody mediated immunity. The second type is cell mediated immune response or cell mediated immunity. The antibodies which are mostly found in blood plasma, they are called as humoral immune response. Humoral, it is somewhat like a fluid. The antibodies which are found in the blood plasma, they are called as humoral immune response. What about this cell mediated immune response? The T lymphocytes mediates the cell mediated immunity. The T lymphocytes is responsible for cell mediated immunity. The cell mediated immunity causes graft rejection. Our body has the capacity to differentiate self and non-self. Suppose if a person, the functioning of any organ, it may be heart, kidney, liver, eyes, it becomes non-function, then what is the remedy? You should go for transplantation. Okay, transplantation is an easy job. He can donate from any donor of his family member. No, he should ensure with tissue matching as well as blood group matching. The tissue matching and blood group matching are essential before undertaking graft or transplant, and even after this the patient has to give immunosuppressants. Why? Because our body is unable to take that organ is not, it has the capacity to differentiate self and non-self. So the patient is given with this drug, that is immunosuppressants. Tissue matching, blood group matching are essential before undertaking any graft or transplant, and even after this the patient is given with this drug, that is immunosuppressants, in order to avoid the graft rejection from our body. The body has the capacity to differentiate self and non-self, and this cell mediated immune response causes graft rejection. So in order to avoid this, the doctor or specialist will be given the drug to a patient, that is immunosuppressants. Now we have completed with two types of immunity, innate immunity and acquired immunity. Now let us see the differences between innate immunity and acquired immunity. Innate immunity, acquired immunity. Innate immunity, you know, the immunity which is non-specific. What about the acquired immunity? It is very much pathogen specific. The innate immunity, it is also called as inborn immunity, which is present at the time of birth. What about acquired immunity? The acquired immunity which is acquired after birth. And innate immunity which is inherited from parents. Acquired immunity is not inherited from parents. And in innate immunity, there is no any memory. If any pathogen it is encountered, there is no any memory. What about in acquired immunity? It has got long-term memory. It is one of the characteristic of acquired immunity. Innate immunity is the immunity which is already present in the body. What about this acquired immunity? Acquired immunity is the adaptive immunity which is created in response to exposure to any foreign substance. If there is any foreign substance, acquired immunity will be adapted, and according to that the antibodies will be produced to fight against a specific antigen. And there are certain cells which are present in innate immunity, which mainly includes leukocytes, polymorphonuclear leukocytes, neutrophils. And what about acquired immunity? It includes two special type of cells, B cells and T cells, B lymphocytes as well as T lymphocytes. So these are few differences between innate immunity and acquired immunity.